Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about therapy, psychology, and a wonderful book. And how do you feel about that? Written by two practicing psychotherapists, Aruna Gopakumar and Yashodhara. This book has accounts of the conflicts in therapy sessions of 50 fictional clients, while Aruna and Yashodhara practice a form of therapy called Transactional Analysis, which was created in the 20th century by Dr. Eric Berne, also an author of the very famous book, Games People Play. Yashodhara and Aruna explore various patterns which many of their clients have come to acquire or follow, while also making their clients self aware about the origin of these patterns and how to recognize them. Now, before we proceed further, I'd like to discuss transactional analysis a bit. It is based around the ego state model developed by Eric Berne, which talks about three people living inside all of us. One is the parent ego state with a capital P. The second is the child ego state with a capital C. And the third is an adult ego state with a capital A. Firstly, these three ego states are different than actual adults, parents, that is, mothers and fathers, and children. Parent ego state is a state in which people behave, feel, and think in response to an unconscious mimicking of how their parents or their parental figures acted or how they interpreted their parents' actions. For example, a person who kept seeing his father shout at other people whenever he was frustrated may also start doing the same thing when he is frustrated. Parental figures can either be nurturing or criticizing. While nurturing would mean someone who is permission giving and security giving, criticizing would obviously mean someone who was highly critical of the child and kept comparing whatever the child did to family traditions and ideals in generally negative ways. The adult ego state basically represents a person's true self without any kind of influence from the other two ego states of the parent or the child. And it is the adult ego state which results in logical and consistent behavior, which is also very rational and not necessarily too emotional. The third ego state, that is the child ego state, is a state in which people behave, feel, and think similarly to how they did back in childhood. Person may also keep using the same strategies that they used as a child to get their needs met even as an adult. Yashodhara and Aruna also talk about coping mechanisms referred to as drivers in TA. Now, drivers are a way in which we have learned to be as children in order for us to stay feeling okay. Now, the five drivers are: be strong, please others, be perfect, try hard, and hurry up. The be strong driver tells us that it's not okay to show emotion and we should just toughen ourselves up in the face of unfortunate circumstances. And all of this can be good in a crisis, but these people will often have problems connecting with their feelings later on and can start feeling numb when things are getting difficult either at work or in their personal life. The please others driver. This makes people try to keep everyone happy, but often at their own expense. Such people may have many friends and they may be great at looking after their family. But when it comes to their own needs, these needs remain unmet, and as a result, they can feel angry and resentful. Those who function using the be perfect driver, they put an enormous amount of effort into the detail and will not settle until things are exactly right. So their work is of a very high standard, but mostly it is at the expense of their anxiety and too much time being spent in everything. Those using the try hard driver, they have a go at things, but they often feel that they haven't completed them or they get bored and they give up halfway through. The hurry up driver instructs the owner to do everything fast. These people rush around, they barely have a minute to relax, and they often eat fast, talk fast, not giving themselves enough time to relax and savor the moments. Now, the problem with drivers is that we tend to feel not okay when we step out of this behavior that we've learned. So, for example, someone who uses a please others driver, if that person for a while does something which does not please the other person, then this person starts feeling scared or sad. And in such situations, it becomes important to step out of our drivers and give ourselves permission to be okay regardless of how we think, feel, or behave. There is also mention of some unconscious behaviors referred to as games by Eric Berne. An example would be when we unconsciously choose to keep believing something which is deep rooted in us, and we keep justifying that by putting the blame on someone else in our life. Time and again, there is also mention of something called as strokes in transactional analysis. Now, strokes are the fundamental units of recognition, attention, and communication that two individuals exchange with each other. They can be unconditional positive strokes, unconditional negative strokes, or conditional positive and conditional negative strokes. Not too tough to understand, it's pretty much the literal meaning. For example, an unconditional positive stroke. It is a genuine recognition of another person's worth or achievements, but it does not have any conditions attached. And such strokes are very essential for building self esteem and fostering healthy relationships and the relationship of love. While unconditional negative strokes would mean when we are acknowledging someone's negative behavior, some mistakes, or some shortcomings. These can be valuable when they are given with a good intent of helping the individual grow. But if these are excessive or unwarranted, then they can be damaging towards the other person's self esteem and to the relationship that we share with the person. Example of a conditional positive stroke would be something that we positively acknowledge in the other person, but only as long as they are adhering to a societal norm or fulfilling some specific role. Similarly, a conditional negative stroke would be when we criticize or disapprove of someone when they are not able to meet a certain standard or a certain expectation. This book is very insightful, and as you read through the experiences of very different people with very different circumstances, there might be some pattern which you relate to yourself or something that makes you think about someone else. Now, while some of their clients are self aware to a certain extent, there are also some who are dismissive of or are running away from their true problems unconsciously. Through some clients, there is deliberation around patterns which have been carried into adulthood because of parents who did not allow their children to express their true emotions. Now, because of these patterns which these individuals developed as a result of their childhood, they're not able to function properly in their adult life. Someone who never received praise and validation from her father and whose achievements were belittled in childhood is dealing with an imposter syndrome, assuming that she's never good enough in spite of glorious achievements as an adult. Someone who wasn't encouraged to express herself in childhood and did not have parents available around her, to tend to her queries, and someone who blindly followed the guidance of her elder sister and as an adult is now facing problems when it comes to taking her own decisions. She doesn't have the required confidence for it. There may be harsh statements uttered by a parent that may haunt a child all their life and which may take the form of negative self talk and start defining their life trajectory. A person may start underplaying his achievements as an adult because of the resentment of his father towards his achievements back when he was a child. Therapy can help such an individual by making him understand that it is okay to choose to value his own emotions and will to express instead of suppressing himself to please others. In other words, make him drop the task and responsibility of managing the emotions of other people around him. There are also group therapy sessions that you see occurring in the book, which highlight the power of how people feel relief when they feel heard. When they express uncomfortable and scary feelings, apprehensive about being understood, but are offered compassion and validation, and how that can be a game changer for them is in terms of catharsis and a newfound strength. Someone who saw her mother working relentlessly has unconsciously started doing the same as an adult and has started saying the same things as her mother used to say to her own family now. And she has this self revelation due to therapy. Body shaming and beauty standards announced by parents in childhood, they may end up as warnings for the children throughout their life and shape their own body image and sense of self worth. Children who've not been protected emotionally by their parents who may have remained busy because of ill health or their own personal problems. These children may now not be able to feel and process their emotions properly, and they may be carrying a lot of trauma with them into their adult life. There could be abandonment issues that lead to a reckless and unstable personal and romantic life. Grief is also explored with the client, and it is discussed how multiple conflicting emotions may be felt when one is grieving, including anger, which can also be directed at the person whom we have lost. How crying is a healthy way of releasing emotions, but its absence does not translate into insensitivity. The importance of good communication and how it can improve relationships is also stressed upon. How people can choose to talk about their needs and ask for strokes from their parents or partners, and how this can improve the way they feel. The book discusses how we unconsciously recreate the dynamics of our dysfunctional childhood, even though we are consciously trying to escape it. For example, a client with a violent and critical father was drawn to an emotionally unavailable man who would put her down. There are also many more such fascinating accounts of the problems of clients, all providing deep insights into human behavior and psyche. I totally recommend this book. Go get your copy now.